Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, first in a series of what I'm calling awesome album covers. This is where I'm going to take some album covers that I think are awesome and really cool and just share them with you. So I've picked five for today. These aren't necessarily what I consider to be my five favorites or the five greatest, but I think that they're really great covers. I tried to pick album covers that sort of touch on different things, maybe have a little different feels to them. And, about album covers in general, back in the day, before the internet, sometimes an album cover was all you had to go by for if it was a band you weren't familiar with to decide if this was going to be something that you wanted to drop your $10 on. And often an album cover could really set the mood for a record. I remember when I first started getting into music, I'd put the album on and man, just stare at the album cover, and it could really set the mood for the music. It could also be something that would become iconic or immediately recognizable with the band. Or the album cover could even go on to define and sort of be the image for an entire genre of music. So here we go. Five awesome album covers. The first one that I've picked is from Yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans. And this is a Roger Dean cover art, and Roger would be famous for his Yes cover art, having done Fragile, Close to the Edge, and others. He also had done Uriah Heep's Demons and Wizards, A Magician's Birthday, also Asia. And his artwork for me would almost become, like I mentioned earlier, with the genre, progressive rock. When you think of progressive rock album covers, Roger Dean to me is the man. And this cover is it's great because you can sort of look at it, and I'm sure there's fans out there of Yes that can maybe pick up on some of these things that I'm unaware of. But you've got this over here, which really reminds me of the Demons and Wizards album cover, sort of waterfall thing. And Roger Dean always had that sort of sci-fi-ish, but yet some earthy things to it. But there was definitely sort of this sci-fi, spacey element, a little bit of a fantasy element to a lot of his stuff, which I think fits Yes perfectly, and especially this record. I'm not really going to be reviewing any of these records, but Tales from Topographic Oceans is a very progressive record. Long songs, double, just great long songs. So this album cover to me fits and works. You have a sort of an Aztec pyramid back here. You've got some writing in, I guess, what's supposed to be the snow there. Again, the stars, are we on another planet? Probably, because we've got flying fish back here, which is maybe a reference to the song The Fish, the iconic Chris Squire song Frozen Tundras here. You've got a fish skeleton inside there. You have some other writing in the snow if you look really, really closely. So it's a great album work. You can just sort of look at this and you can pick out all these different things on the album cover and really sort of immerse yourself in this. And to me, it fits perfectly with Yes and progressive rock and this album. So Roger Dean, Tales from Topographic Oceans. Okay, next I picked from Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Now this is classic album cover. Something that is immediately associated with the band. The band at this point, first album with Ronnie James Dio, starting a new chapter in the band, and this to me has a real bringing them into the 80s feel to it. It is taken from a painting by Lynn Curley, called Smoking Angels. And if you see the original painting, it's pretty much just this, and they put the band name and the album name underneath it. And this painting was inspired by a 1928 photograph of women dressed as angels sitting on a kind of a hillside smoking. So that's what inspired this album cover, and it just fits the theme of the record: the heaven and hell, heaven the angels, hell the smoking part. So it just fits the album name perfectly. Again, it fits the mood of the record for me. This is Black Sabbath, Ronnie James Dio, moving into a new era for the band, and this has a different feel for me than any of their 70s album covers. Also, the back cover is a drawing by Harry Kermian, which I think is really cool. Reminds me a little bit of the Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll album cover, which Dio was involved on that record. So again, the back cover here makes me think this is just a real sort of epic, sort of serious statement here from the band, and just a great, great front album cover. So there you go, Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, another awesome album cover. All right, I'm going to step outside of heavy metal and the typical hard rock here, and I'm going to go to a southern rock album, Molly Hatchet, Flirting with Disaster. And I picked this one because it's a Frank Frazetta picture on the cover. Frank Frazetta is a legendary fantasy artist, and you would certainly recognize a bunch of his other artworks. They've appeared in comic books and magazines and everything, and just great. I had a chance in an art gallery once to see some original Frank Frazetta work stuff, and it was just so awesome to see originals of that, because this is a real, here's an example of an album cover that I remember as a young kid. I think I had heard the song Flirting with Disaster, maybe I didn't, and seeing this album cover and thinking it was going to be heavy metal, because this has, you know, all the trappings of heavy metal on it, if you will. It's got a sort of a Viking barbarian guy with a bloody axe and these skeletons and skulls of his, we'll assume, victims underneath him there. But this is a great record, but it's pretty much, you know, heavy southern rock. You know, I would not say that there is anything metal about this record, but if you like southern rock, you know, and Molly Hatchet would use a bunch of Frank Frazetta album covers for all their stuff. It kind of became their signature thing. So just an awesome piece of artwork from Frank Frazetta. Let's put this one over here. All right, my number 4 here, and again, these are in no particular order, is, I wanted to go for a crazy weird one, so I went with the Mothers of Invention. Weasels Ripped My Flesh. This is such a crazy, bizarre album cover. This, of course, is Frank Zappa, when Frank Zappa's first band was the Mothers of Invention. Later on in some of the records, it's listed as Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, but here it's the Mothers of Invention. And it is just, I mean, what is this? A guy shaving here with a weasel. A weasel ripping his flesh. So I guess it goes right along with the album cover, but it is just so weird, this sort of 1950s dude here. And it was done by an artist named Neon Park, who had worked with Bowie and Little Feat and the Beach Boys, amongst others. And Frank had gotten the name of the album cover. It was from a Man's Life magazine cover, where there's sort of this guy in the water and he's got weasels all over him, and it says underneath it, "Weasels Ripped My Flesh." So that's where Zappa got the title. And then Neon Park based this off of a Schick razor advertisement thing. He took sort of the inspiration from that. I just love the weird, bizarre look on this guy's face. I think I saw this as a poster somewhere, just the picture. And I should have bought it because it's such a crazy crazy picture. And what would you expect anything less from Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, where they were just this crazy weird band, and this album especially has all kinds of experimental stuff on it, so it just all makes sense. And I love the R's underneath it, sort of the comic booky nature of the bubble lettering and stuff like that. So Weasels Ripped My Flesh, Neon Park album cover. Right, and the last one that I picked for this episode, very, very iconic album cover, is Pink Floyd's Animals. And this is a Hypnosis album cover. Hypnosis is a real famous album art company, and they have dozens of famous album art all the way into the heavy metal world with the Scorpions, Black Sabbath, and Rainbow. And they did a ton of Pink Floyd album covers. They were almost like, you know, a team with Pink Floyd. And Pink Floyd, you know, is just famous for their album covers and Hypnosis. And this is maybe one of their, in my opinion, they've got a lot of iconic album covers. Maybe this is as one of their most iconic. It's this factory here on the front is the Battersea Power Station that apparently was near where Roger Waters lived, or he had to drive by this at the time. And so it's got this really cold, if you open it up here, the sort of forms one big thing here. It's, for me, fits this album perfectly, where Roger, in the lyrics on this about, you know, people being animals and just destroying the planet. You've got the smog, and of course you have the iconic, legendary flying pig. And even to this day, I saw Roger Waters maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and he still has the flying pig in his show, and it's something that they would use in their shows, sort of almost like a mascot of the band, and Roger Waters of sorts. And the story goes, I was reading up on this before I did this video, that they made this inflatable flying pig, and they had a marksman set up just in case the thing got away, so he could shoot it down. And on the one day that they tried taking the pictures, it actually did get away. And on the second day that they were doing this, it did get away and landed up. But their manager didn't hire the marksman for the second day, so the pig got away and then caused all kinds of panic with a nearby airport. Landed up landing in a field somewhere, and they were never able to get the picture that they wanted with the pig the right way. Where they brought the pig back and they tried taking the pictures again, but they felt like the pictures of the power station were better on the first day, so they just landed up putting this sort of drawing, imposing the pig over into the picture there. But again, just an iconic album cover. When I saw Roger Waters a few years ago, he had his dropped down from the ceiling of the stadium, these sort of the power station, the chimneys there, and then the pigs started flying around. So it's something, you know, immediately identifiable with Pink Floyd. And Hypnosis would have tons and tons of classic album covers, and I'd say that this has got to be up there in their top 10 at least. So all right, so there you go, number 5 for me, Pink Floyd's Animals. All right, so 5 awesome album covers. Let me know what you think of these album covers. Let me know some other awesome album covers. Of course, like I said, I'm going to do more of these episodes and talk about these covers. Let's go back through them again here. Floyd's Animals. Weasels Ripped My Flesh from the Mothers of Invention, to Frank Frazetta. Flirting with Disaster, Heaven and Hell, and yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans, Roger Dean. Let me know some album covers that you think are awesome, and I'll try to cover them in some future episodes. Let me know what you think of these album covers. You know, the great thing about a lot of these covers is you can look and you can find little details and little things inside them, like I mentioned the Roger Dean cover. So are there any little hidden messages, little things inside these albums that you picked up on? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you hit subscribe and like. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.